Hi there. Today we're going to be having a look at the word question from the 2014 Eastern Cape September Prelim. There were a few mistakes in the paper, so the version presented here is slightly different from the one that you might download from the Eastern Cape website. If you have a look at the web page, you'll find the questions are there in Word format and PDF format. I'm going to have the questions up on the sidebar on the right-hand side, so that we can follow along. There's also Q1 ID and Q2 brochure, the source files that we're going to be using for this exercise. Please download those and extract them in an appropriate folder, as I have done here. Right, open Q1 ID. Right, this is what we have. And the first question is the main heading, Identity Documents. At the top of the document should be bold and dark blue in color. You can select the entire heading by clicking in the left margin, and we can change that to bold, and we can change the color to dark blue. Then Mr. Johnson would like to add a picture of the new Smart ID card to the description in the middle of the document. They don't say exactly where, but there is a small little picture that you can see on the screen there. So we're going to use just the middle of this paragraph and go to Insert, Picture, and yours may be in a subfolder of the exercise you're using, but anyway, there's the picture. At the moment it appears fairly big and in the wrong place. We need to have the paragraph flow around this picture as shown on the question paper. So I'm going to go to Text Wrapping and choose Tight, and we can also make this picture a little bit smaller. In the example on the question paper, it would have to be much smaller. Then they didn't ask us to add any effects, such as the mirroring effect you can see in the example. That mirroring effect you can find under the Format option, and we can add a style if you want to, such as reflection. I'm not going to do that because that's not in the actual questions that are required of us, but they do require a border. So right-click on the picture, Format Picture, and it opens this Format Picture dialog. On the left you'll find the bucket fill, which has the line option. We're going to go with a solid line, a 3-point line, and we're told to make the line black. Moving down. Question 1.3. Add the style heading 1 to the two subheadings on page 1 and 2. So that is, I'm going to close the Format Text Effects box. Again, I can click in the left-hand margin, select the first heading, and I can scroll down and find the second one, which is reissuing an ID book. If I hold down the Control key and click, I've now selected both those paragraphs, the headings, and I can make them heading 1. Then we're asked to create a new style, register elections. In the Styles menu, there are two ways I can get to this. We're still in the Home tab. The little drop-down box next to the Styles menu you'll see has Create a Style, or I could open the Styles dialog, and at the very bottom left there is New Style. I'll use the first one of those options. So, starting at the top of the document, I'm going to create a new style, and we're going to call this Register Elections. And then I need to modify the style. The first thing we're told is that this one must be based on heading 2. There. Style for the following paragraph isn't specified, but normally it would be a normal text or something like that. So I'll do that just for consistency. We're told the font must be comic. It'll be faster if you type that in than if you try and find it. And size 16 and the color dark blue. My mistake. The border needs to be dark blue. I'll leave the color dark blue while we're at it. So we go to Format and then Border. And I can choose a box border, choose a color, dark blue, and make it wide enough to be able to see. They don't specify a width. We also need a background, so we go to shading, and I'm going to choose more colors and one of the pinkish colors, which will apply to a paragraph. Okay, that's what it's going to look like. The last thing, if changes were to be made to the style, ensure that all the headings in the document that use this will be updated automatically. That is the automatic update box down on the bottom of the dialog. And okay. Of course, having created the new style, it then applied to the paragraph I was busy with, which was this first paragraph. I want to change that one back to heading 1, just because that was the original requirement in the question paper. And if I don't have it set to heading 1, I don't get the marks. Right, let's go on to the next page. Insert a table of contents and format by using the following criteria. So we're going to insert a table of contents. You'll usually have to create a new page for that. We aren't told to do that in this instance, so I'm just adding a new line. Then we're going to references. You'll find table of contents on the left-hand side. And usually you're going to be asked to do things in your exam which involve using the submenus, as is the case here. So we're going down to the bottom, custom table of contents. We're told that this table of contents must not show page numbers, must show only one level and use the modern style. So don't show page numbers, we're going to use hyperlinks instead, must show only one level, and we're going to use modern style. But just a word of warning, watch what happens to the show page numbers as I choose modern, and you'll see that that has been reset to show page numbers. So check before you close when you're doing these things that is unticked. Choosing a template means that all the defaults are set to the defaults for that template, including the fact that it uses page numbers. And then we can say, okay, and there is our table of contents. It doesn't look exactly like the example in the question paper, which among other things is colored blue and has page numbers, but you do just what is required of you. Right. Insert the following in the footer of the document. We're going to add a built-in footer. So we're going to insert, and you will find footer. We can edit the footer, or we could just have double-clicked in this footer margin. And now I can add the text, quote by Mandela. This is not the same thing as adding a footnote. A footnote places a little reference in the text which you can click on and go to the footnote. We're just adding this text in the footer. Close the header and footer. It will appear grayed out in your document because Word highlights the text that forms the main part of your document. This doesn't mean it's going to print as a gray color. It will print black. You see, if I double click in the footer again, it is black and it grays out the rest of the document. So don't be worried by that particular feature. Set the document title to ID information. The document title in this particular instance refers to a property of the document, which we'll find at File, and now you can see on the right-hand side the various properties, and title is one of those. We're going to set that to ID information. That won't make any visible changes to the document yet, except for the next question, add a cover page to the document in any style. And then we're going to make sure that only the title appears, and it must appear automatically. So let's insert pages on the left-hand side, cover page, and I'll use the Austin style that's there. This includes several other automatic features. As you'll see, we've got a field where I can add some text. We can delete that. I have the title automatically appearing, but I also have a field for the document subtitle. We can delete that field. We have a field for the author, which also comes from those properties, and I can delete that field. And now I have only title showing. This field is set from those document properties we have just set. So just for illustration, if I go to the properties and I change that to just say ID info and back to the document, you'll see that the title updates automatically. Undo that. Right, and we have removed any other auto information as requested. Then use automatic page numbers, but it should not appear on the cover page. When you insert an automatic cover page, Word also automatically sets the page numbers not to appear on the cover page, but if you create the cover page yourself, you will have to format it that way. So we'll look at how to do that. Go to Insert and Page Numbers, and you'll find that we have the options to insert page numbers at the top of the page, bottom page, and page margins. There is something you need to be careful of here. Remember, in the footer, we already have this quote by Mandela. If I go to page numbers and insert page numbers at the bottom of the page, it replaces the text that I had put in the footer. That can cause a problem. So let's undo. There we go. Instead, when go into the footer, go to Insert, Page Number, and Current Position, if I want this in the footer. Now, there is my page number, and I can tab that across to the middle. Either that, or insert the page number at the top of the page. The position isn't specified in this particular question. What is specified is that it mustn't appear on the cover page, and you will see with a custom cover page, it is not on the cover already. Otherwise, you would have to format the page number. There we go, format page number, and make sure it starts at 0. Now, the reason it doesn't start on the cover page in this instance, if you have a look, you would see that there is a section break, or a page break in this particular case. And the cover page is a separate section to the rest of the document, so it can have its own page number formatting. Otherwise, when you're working with pages, you're going to have to, let me go to page number, format the page numbers, and make sure it starts at 0, so that the first page of the document would start at 1, and then in the formatting for it under Design, you would have to say different first page to make sure that it does not appear on the first page. Okay. 1.8, change the paragraph spacing of the entire document to 12 points after each paragraph. Please don't try and select the entire document using your mouse. That is slow. There's a shortcut code, Control-A, that selects everything. Or if you prefer, you can go Control-Home to go to the very beginning and Shift Control-End to go to the very end of the document. Now you've selected everything. Now we can go to paragraph formatting, and after the paragraph, I can say 12 PT. You can leave the points out because PT is the default unit, but just for safety's sake, 12 PT. And there we are, 12 points after each paragraph. Then insert a horizontal watermark. So we're going to go to Design, and here's Watermark. Again, we're going to have to use one of the sub-menus, so Custom Watermark, Text Watermark, and Copy. And lastly, we want to make it horizontal. There aren't any other specifications like changing the color, so there we are. And you'll see that it doesn't always show clearly. Here it is, but when paragraph text appears over it, this does get hidden, but the text copy is still there. Right, last question. Replace the occurrences of the word identity with the word ID so that they all appear in a red font. This is in the Home tab again, and you will find Replace. We're going to replace identity as it appears, and we're going to replace it with the word ID. But we also asked to change the color to red. You'll find this under More, and you need to be a little bit careful here. The formatting options are going to apply to the text that you are working on. So if I'm working in Find What and I go to Format, then it's going to be looking for text with that particular format. If I'm busy working in the replace with line, then format will replace the text with the formatting that I specify. So make sure you have replace with selected. Then we go to format, font, and we can choose the font color and make that a nice bright red. Okay, you'll see here, format, font color red, and we can use replace all, 11 replacements. I wasn't paying attention to this, but if you were asked to change the text ID, for example, which appears in the word identity, you may have to make sure that you select whole words only when you're busy working. Otherwise, you might find the middle of a whole number of bits of text are changed as well. But close. This will have taken us down to the end of the document. Scroll towards the top, and you'll find that our text has been replaced in several places. There we are, end of question 1. So make sure you save, and then you can close that question. Always save first. There's too much chance of making a mistake and accidentally not saving if you just press the X and hope that the save dialog is going to appear. Let's go on to question 2. Enable editing if you have to. If you have downloaded this from the web page, you probably will have to. If you're working in an exam situation, you probably won't. And let's have a look at the questions. So, starting off, Mr. Johnson would like to hand out brochures to inform voters and citizens about the registration weekend. In your questions, you are given this annexure, brochure A, which is now opened in the sidebar on the right, and that provides an overview of how this is supposed to look. I'm going back to the question paper, and we can work with this. So, change the margins of the entire document to narrow. That will be under layout. We can go margins and narrow. Change the entire document as follows. Change the page orientation to landscape, so orientation landscape. Insert a column break as indicated in annexure A. Make sure that the heading starts with you have is at the top of column 1. So there we are. You have. We're going to insert a break, and this is a column break, which, because we haven't yet set up columns, looks just like a page break. But there it is. Use 3 equal columns with a line in between. So we're going to change this entire document to 3 columns, but I want a line. So I'm going to refer to one of the submenus. More columns. And this appeared off the page, so I just dragged it in. We can say 3 columns. The default is always equal column width. If you need unequal columns, then you have to untick that, but I'm going to leave it ticked for the moment. We aren't told to use any special widths here, but we are told there has to be a line in between. There we go. And looking at the questions, I've missed that I need to put in a column break at the top of one of the columns. And am I registered is over here. So this is what happens when you insert a column break and you already have columns, breaks, column, and you'll see that has now moved to the top of the page. Note column width 8.22 centimeters and spacing 1.25. So we have that specification. Let's check under more columns whether that's what we have. 8.22 and 1.25 were the defaults that Word chose for us. Add a 6-point border art around the document, and any border is fine. So we're going to go to design, and there's page borders. This is going to apply to the whole document. We're going to make it a 6-point border. There we go. Any border is possible. We can choose one of them. Don't spend too much time trying to select a border. They say any border is fine. If you spend time, you're taking time that you could be using for other questions. Then edit the form in the third column. Am I registered as follows? Insert a table for the ID number. So in the third column, we have that here. We need to insert a table in this line. It must have 13 columns and 1 row, and the columns must be 0.44 centimeters. So we're going to go to Insert, Table. With this sort of a specification, don't try and do an automatic table. In any case, you don't have the option to go past 10 cells. Go to the Insert Table option, and here you can specify the details you need. 13 columns, 1 row. It's going to be a fixed column width, and it mustn't be automatic. We're going to have to choose 0.44 centimeters. There we go. Now, the next bit needs us to use forms. Add a text form field, the word municipality. And as you see from the top menu in my version of Word, I do not have that facility. I need the developer tab, which should be showing over here. So to make that available, I need to go to the File menu, File, Options, and Customize ribbon. And in the right-hand column, you will see Developer, which at the moment does not have a tick next to it. We say OK, and now I have Developer as an option in my top toolbar. So next to the municipality, we're going to add one of the legacy fields, a text field, which is this first one. Legacy in this case means it applies across all versions of Word. The more recent versions up at the top are only available in the more recent versions of Word. Legacy does not mean old and out of date. It actually means, in this case, slightly more functional because you can use it in more versions of Word. Add a drop-down list to the right of the word province. So we are going to the next to province, and we can add from that same set of ActiveX controls a drop-down list. And we are going to have to add to that the options. So double click on that, and you'll find we can now add to the drop-down list the Western Province. Add. We can add Eastern Cape. We can add Gauteng, KZN, and Northern Cape. And there we are. It won't appear as a drop-down box yet. That will only appear if I restrict access to this. So don't be fazed by the idea that you don't have a little drop-down arrow next to it. It is a drop-down list. Then add a checkbox to the right of the sentence, you are eligible. So over here, to the right of the sentence, again, from the same ActiveX controls, there's a checkbox, and it appears. If we were to restrict editing, and then you will see the option, allow this type of formatting only, filling in forms, and I start enforcing restrictions without a password, now you will have a drop-down box. We aren't asked to do that, so I'm going to stop enforcing protection. Then lastly, group the pictures under the heading. You can find us so that it appears as one object. So these are the pictures. I'm going to move some of these around a bit just so we can see them. To refer to the look, you'll see they appear just sort of randomly placed. But we can make this look a little bit like the annexure. YouTube, Facebook off on the right. And now select the pictures. If you have trouble selecting the pictures, there are two ways. We can go home and use the select option to select objects. Now what I'm selecting is just objects, and you'll see dragging a box around it means I've selected all the objects, and I can right click and go group, Or if I didn't want to use that select option, I want to select none. There we go. You can hold down the Shift key to select each option one at a time. Right-click, Group, and Group. They are now one object, and I want these to appear below the document, under the text. There we go. Go back to the question paper, and that's it. So again, save and close the document. Save first, then close. And that's it. I do hope that you didn't find that too difficult. I'll see you again next time.